I think it was because we were using the wrong technology to attack it in the first place. But yeah, the really successful ones, I've had to walk away just because we did good enough, and I'm like, I could make this 10 times better, but it wasn't cost effective to keep pursuing this, because we're not, doing a doctoral thesis here and trying to get it, discover this great new thing. We're just trying to get it working well enough to be efficient in business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what would you, getting to good enough? I'm kind of, there's an assessment point where you say, yeah, it's doing what we need it to do well enough. But along that, getting to that point, would you say that there were typically challenges or barriers that maybe would have allowed you to get it even better than the good enough point with the same amount of, at the same point in the development process? Were there things that were limiters other than just that decision that it's good enough? Were there things that were limiters that kept you from going further, faster?
I think that the biggest limiters are, once you solve the problem, kind of in a phase one, you now understand the problem at a much deeper level, and you almost always realize there was a better way to do it. And so if you took the time to reiterate and go back, you might be able to shave another order of magnitude off of it, or maybe, make it go 3 times faster, or be, 15% more accurate. But a lot of times, if you've moved from a 60% accuracy rate to a 95% accuracy rate, and you're like, well, I could make this, a 98% accuracy rate. A lot of times you're like, well, the amount of work it's going to take to go, even though that's an order of magnitude more accurate, the amount of work it's going to take when 95% is good enough for the business. So that's generally where you look at it. I think it's just a deeper, better understanding of the problem once you've solved it the first time.
Yeah, and that's an interesting, where I'm thinking is that, as you repeat processes, you learn from those things and you can be more efficient. And I'm wondering, at this stage in AI, the projects you described were all pretty diverse. How much are you able to leverage learnings from one AI project to another, and how much are we still at a stage where everything is pretty unique and there's minimal transfer of knowledge from one project to the next?
I think at this point there's a feeling for what techniques, based on the problem you're dealing with, what techniques will get you close. But then it's the parameters for the AI technique you're using, especially if you're using the cutting edge AI techniques. Those parameters are unique to problems generally. Although you get better at finessing them because you kind of know how you've done it enough times, so you kind of get a just intuition for it. So, for instance, if I'm going on something that's human perceived, maybe it's speech recognition, visual recognition, but something that humans tend to be fairly good at, I get I know that maybe applying a convolutional neural network is probably going to be a good way to attack this, because we're kind of going on something that is almost intuitional anyway, and those tend to be good at what we perceive as human intuition. If I'm going on something that's highly analytical and looking for clustered data sets, then I'm probably going to go on something that's more of a k-nearest neighbors or a stochastic algorithm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I can use my previous knowledge to kind of get a feel for what type of problem that is, and that's going to drive me towards one technique or another. But once I'm using the technique, parameter juggling is always, it's one of the